Hello from the future. So yesterday I recorded an episode of my behind the scenes podcast diary, but I did it in a different way. I recorded it, or I filmed it, and then I'm going to extract the audio. But that's not the point of why I'm doing this little short clip. So when I went to open iMovie, I found another vlog. I keep doing this. So this is actually the behind the scenes vlog number 8, and it was filmed from the 17th to the 23rd of March. I think I got discouraged and stopped vlogging because I thought the vlogs aren't useful there. For some reason I thought the content was terrible, but I've just gone through and I've made some more adjustments to it. And I realized this is actually quite helpful. So I talk about how I edit nonfiction, I talk about revising my crime thriller Missing, and I talk about how when I'm adding a new scene to the revised draft, I have to get everything right straight away. So sometimes this means doing research and getting all the little intricate details, so it takes a little longer. And I talk about what that actually looks like for me, and I talk about like where I do my research. Like sometimes I obviously go to Google Maps, and sometimes I turn to YouTube. So I sort of found this vlog quite helpful, so I'm gonna record this little introduction. And I've just realized that the outfit I've got on makes me look a little bit Dolores Umbridge. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this vlog. Happy Monday, everybody. So I think it's about 4:45 in the afternoon, and I'm on my second cup of green tea. It's sencha green tea. Perhaps I'm mispronouncing that, possibly, most likely. From last week's vlog, I finished the podcast and editing the video and the vlog. Yay! And now I've decided that on my calendar I've actually cut off, I've blocked off from 4 to I think it's 8 p.m. as writing time, and I've sort of dipped into 46 minutes of that. So what I wanted to do is I have a few things I need to do this week, and one of those is I need to work on smarter goal setting, which is something I seem to be consistently working on at the moment. So I thought today I will attempt to edit 3 chapters of the 2nd edition of Smarter Goal Setting, just so I can get that out of the way, just so I am actually starting a writing block off with, shockingly enough, writing. I'm going to do some revisions of that, and if I have time I will start on Missing, but it's more likely that it's going to take a little bit longer, because usually what happens is I'll see something in Smarter Goal Setting and I'll be like, nope, I want to change that, and I'll end up changing it. By the way, just in case you're wondering, this little jumper is actually little dachshunds. They're like rose gold dachshunds, so that's why they're not shimmering, but they are actually shimmering in real life. So I'm going to get back to my office and start editing Smarter Goal Setting. Yay! Happy Wednesday, everybody. So in the last clip, it was Monday, and I told you I wanted to work on smarter goal setting and that I was going to update you. That didn't happen because it's now Wednesday, obviously. So I did actually work on smarter goal setting. I mentioned that I wanted to revise 3 chapters, and I actually did that, and I ended up revising around 3,600 words, and it took me about maybe 2.5 hours to do. So that was Monday, and by the time I finished, I think it was around 7:30, and I was just really tired because I do use a couple of tools to do my own line edits. I read through, make any changes. I sort of ask myself, does this do what it's supposed to do? And if it doesn't, I add a bit more content. And after I'm fine with what's gone on in the section of the chapter, I then put it through Pro Writing Aid and Grammarly, and I go through, and as I put it through those two programs, I read the section out loud to myself so I can hear if I'm missing anything. And sometimes I get the computer to read it back because it's easier to pick up on stuff. Because what happens, I've noticed when I read something back, is I will read back what I meant to say. So sometimes I've noticed I actually miss the mistakes, so it's much easier to hear the super robotic voice of the computer. So that's how I revise a section. And I also add a recommended worksheets and resources section at the end of the chapter. I'm also considering adding an actionable steps section as well, just to sort of sum up the chapter and really make it explicitly clear this is what you need to do next. But I haven't actually done that yet, so maybe I will do one more pass and do that. So on Tuesday, I've started filming obviously this vlog as well, and I've been editing the video for vlog 7, which will be released I think on the 17th, Sunday the 17th, so vlog number 7 will be released then. So I've been editing that on Monday and Tuesday as well, and that's already been uploaded to YouTube, and that's already scheduled, that's already there, so that's done. Filming these sections of the vlog doesn't actually take that much time, by the way. I then just have to upload it into, at the moment I'm using iMovie, so I upload it into iMovie and I edit that. So I did all that, and then after that I worked on the next episode. I started researching and taking notes for the next episode of the podcast, and that's on the hero's journeys. I think that episode might actually be 2 or 3 episodes long. I may end up, with the episode on how to structure a story using the hero's journey. I'm probably going to break that up into 2 or 3 shows, because I'm also watching The Fellowship of the Ring, and I'm sort of unpacking the key hero's journey moments in that film. So I don't just want to brush over it lightly. I want to show you, or I want to discuss the hero's journey in action. Just so I'm going to explain the hero's journey. Roughly has about 12 stages of it, so I'm going to explain the 12 stages, and in each stage I want to give you a real life example from a film, because I chose the film, and I explain this in the podcast, because it's 3 hours versus about 14 to 15 reading hours if I use like an audiobook. So I chose the film. The film is slightly different, and that's the reason why I make a big deal out of saying that I've chosen the film over the book. Just to brace yourself if you're a huge fan of those books, and they're great books. There is minor differences. But I don't go into the book versus the movie, because that's another story for a different time. I apologise for that, because it's my dishwasher and it's on chef mode, and it's angry because it's finished. That's what I did Tuesday. So I went through and I did that. So I researched, took notes, and started watching The Fellowship of the Ring. I'm going to release the first part of this on Monday, because I want to foresee the problems that I had last week, and I need to start doing these in advance, but I'm behind and I want to try and catch up. And part of the reason why I want to release it on Monday was I discovered this week that I get more listens on a Monday morning than I do any other day that I've released my podcast. So obviously that works. It could be the content, but I have a funny feeling it could be just the day, because usually I don't see this many listens until, usually I release it on Thursday, and I don't actually see this many listens until Monday morning, but I got all the listens kind of in one hit, so I thought, So I'm going to see how it goes, but I keep changing the day if I release my podcast, but I think this is probably going to be the final change. So today, what I'm going to do today is get around to revising Missing. Yay! I have a new scene I need to write, so I'm going to do that one first. Then I have 3 other scenes where I need to make minor revisions to a few plot elements, because I realised I failed to foreshadow things or mention things that at first seem quite insignificant, but towards the end are very significant. They become more important as the story progresses, and minor things that I've missed as I've outlined. So obviously when I went over my outline, I didn't actually revise it that well, which is fine. That's what revision is for, perfecting it and fooling the reader into thinking that you knew what you were doing all along. But first, I'm going to make myself a cup of tea, and I'm going to listen to a book called The Visitor by Lee Child. I've actually found a Jack Reacher novel that I love. Usually I don't really like Jack Reacher, but this book I'm loving because it's super interesting. At this stage, it's no longer like the first one, which I've forgotten the name of it, but I have read it. It's like this orangey cover. It was really like a Western, and I don't really like Westerns. My grandfather loved Westerns, and he used to torture me with the old John Wayne movies, and I hated them, but he loved them. So he would love this book, but he would love that first book, but I don't. But this one I'm loving. It's amazing. I started reading it yesterday and I'm already roughly 15% of the way through. I like to read by Kindle and Whisper Sync for voice. So yep, so I'm gonna make a cup of tea, listen to that, and I found that it's actually easier for me to get into writing if I've read or I've listened to an audiobook before. It gets me in that special place that I need to be in to write. It gets me in the mood to create something, and I think that's important. That works for me anyway. So that's what I'm going to do today. So hopefully I won't get distracted and I'll actually get some work done. And I think I need to listen to a little bit more. I need to watch, a few more scenes from the Fellowship of the Ring and add more notes as well. So I've got a lot to do. And it's actually 3:23, so I'm ahead of schedule today. So usually I've allocated writing time from 4 to 8. 5 days a week, and today I haven't crept into that for the first time this week. I'm quite proud of myself, as you can see. It's a bit scary, I know. It's been 2 hours since we last spoke, and what has basically happened during that time is I read a couple of chapters of The Visitor by Lee Child, and I'm sort of up to, well, it's more than a couple of chapters, a few chapters, and I'm up to sort of the 23% mark. I was about to start filming myself writing the new chapter, and I looked down and classic me, I distracted myself. I looked down at my hand and realized I didn't have my engagement ring on, and it's sort of worth around the £3,000 to £5,000 mark. So I panicked, tore the house apart, realized I didn't have it, and then I texted my husband, and it turns out he had it in his wallet. So I must have taken off my hand when I was in Paris to put on my gloves because it was super cold, and I must have given him the ring to hold on to, and he just never gave it back to me. So yeah, so I wasted 20 minutes doing that. And then I finally got to a stage where I wanted to write the scene, and I got there and I realized I had chosen like a location. It's a fictional location. The only thing that's real about my story is the town, or the city that it's set in, but nothing else in there is real. It's quite fiction. It's fiction, like newspapers fiction. Yeah, a lot of it is fiction, including like the coffee shops. It's all fiction, and I guess that's just a writing choice that I made. But with this location, it actually happens in a pub, and I realized that I'd chosen, when I sort of outlined the scene, I had a scene in mind. I had a location in mind that could inspire the scene, the setting for this scene, and it was it's a pub in London, and I realised I had no idea what that pub looked like on the inside, so I did not go down there and visit. What I did was I went online and I had to do a lot of searching. Like, I could find a lot of pictures. It's one of those pubs that has it has several levels, and the upstairs level's it looks more like a restaurant, but I had to find a picture of the bar. You have no idea how long that's taken me. It's just ridiculous. So I'm now at a stage where I've got a picture, I've got a few pictures, so I know what it looks like, so I know the type of colouring that's in the room, and it's the right type of look for the scene. So now I have that firmly in my mind, so I can actually write this scene, and it's now 30 minutes past, it's 5:28. So yes, because I'm revising, I mean, if this was a first draft, I would have just written that and I wouldn't have cared. I would have just made it up. But because this is, I'm writing a new scene for a revised draft, I have to get all this stuff done. There's none of this, oh, we'll leave that for later. I have to figure it out now. So that's the only difference. I mean, I have to admit, writing the first draft, I never thought I'd say this, is actually much easier than revising, because especially if you have to write something new. So anyway, that's what I've been up to. Hopefully I'll actually get this done. Yeah, I will, because I'm about to start. So it's 6 p.m. on Thursday evening. Yesterday afternoon, I actually managed to get all of the writing, all of the revision tasks that I wanted to get done for Missing. So today I watched a documentary called Cops with Cameras, and it's actually about a UK police task force all over the UK going into raiding houses looking for drugs and arresting people who, I'm pretty sure it's people who deal drug, who are actually sort of making and dealing the drugs, and they're also committing a whole heap of thefts to sort of keep the money flow. So they're able to sort of continue their sort of drug business. So that's what that was about. And I watched it because the way the police operate in the UK is slightly different to the way they operate in the US. Mainly, the biggest difference is in the UK they don't actually have weapons, and they don't use an excessive amount of force. They're more like when the UK police turn up to a crime scene, they're more about sort of controlling things, keeping it calm, and they use force as a last resort. There are special officers that do have firearms, and they're quite big. Like, I've seen them. I remember when the 2012 Olympics was going on, I was in the Stratford Westfield Mall, and I remember them walking around with their massive guns. So I have seen them. The average police officer in the UK doesn't actually have a firearm or a gun as a weapon. So I had to sort of figure out what they actually do try and figure out what is the police procedure when they do a raid, because towards the end of my novella Missing, they do actually raid the museum, and I needed to get that right, because I realised when I wrote it, I just sort of put guns in their hands, because I'm from Australia, and the police in Australia also have weapons as well. So I had to, because this is set in the UK, I needed to make it appropriate to the country. Like, they wouldn't have an armed task force unless it was absolutely necessary. And I sort of feel in this situation they would not have an armed task force. It's just ridiculous. They don't have any proof that the suspects that they're looking to arrest, they have no proof they actually have weapons, so they wouldn't use an armed task force. So I needed to get that. There were 2 scenes I needed to get right, and so I watched that. I made minor rewrites to those scenes, so those 2 scenes have been done and out the way, and I've just got 2 more new scenes I needed to write. And one of those 2 scenes is actually a longer scene, because it's the epilogue of the book. And the epilogue happens, I think it's 6 months after the events that happen in the previous chapters. And now I need to rewatch The Fellowship of the Ring to make notes for the script for the podcast, so I can record it tomorrow. So I have to rewatch Fellowship of the Ring, and I'm just paying attention to the major scenes in that story. So yeah, so I've got more watching to do. I can't think of anything else to say. So that's over. Yeah, so I have to watch Fellowship of the Ring, write some notes, and hopefully finish writing the script so I can record tomorrow. And funnily enough, I've learnt my lesson from last week. I'm just going to record the audio and I'm going to record the video at a later date. Eventually, I do want to record videos for all of the episodes of season 1 of my podcast, the Entrepreneur Podcast. Yes, but I'm going to do that slowly and release them on my YouTube channel.